All right, so let's talk about this shortage, or so to speak, mechanic shortage. From my perspective, as a diesel mechanic, there still is a shortage, but I think that shortage is slowing down a little bit because the economy is slowing down a little bit. The demand for trucking isn't really there, and trucks aren't running as hard, so it's slowing down, plain and simple. It might be different in your area, but in my area, it's slowed down a lot for fleet mechanic especially. So we still have PMs, we still have the basic stuff, but it is slowing down. That being said, the shortage I think is still a real thing. So here's an answer right away, straight from the beginning of the video. How do you fix the shortage? It's obviously more pay up front. I know that's what everybody's going to say about any job ever. They want to get paid more. I understand that. But let me just put some examples out as to why mechanics in general, I'm coming from a diesel mechanic perspective, why we need to be paid more. Let me also say that it comes down to skills too. Just because you're a mechanic, you shouldn't be requesting the highest amount of pay. I mean, you got to be worth what you're asking. Let's not forget that. The skills should equal how many dollar bills you're being paid, right? And there's probably other videos on YouTube about this already. In fact, there is other YouTube videos about this already. But you know what? I'm just going to add to the noise. Why not? I'm just going to talk about from where I'm from. So I'm stating facts from where I'm from. This could vary from where you're at, what state you're in, the demand, all that stuff. But this is just from my perspective in my area. The average general salary in PA is $25 an hour. That's according to ZipRecruiter. That again might vary, but that's the average general salary from what I'm understanding is around $25 an hour. Now, the average salary in PA for entry-level diesel tech, according to the same source, is $26 an hour. So you might say, all right, that's pretty good. You're getting paid a dollar an hour more than the average. So that should be pretty good as an entry level, right? And you might be right. It's pretty decent. If you're doing basic work, that might be a decent starting wage in this area. However, we have to talk about how many trades are piled into one job when you're a mechanic or a diesel mechanic in my experience. I have to know repair and diagnose, okay, diesel engines, emissions, which are getting more difficult every year, the electrical systems, which requires, knowing all the different sensors and the readings and how to use voltmeters or multimeters in general and test lights and reading wiring diagrams. I have to know all that stuff. Heating and air conditioning, I don't know that too. And that's, again, the sensors, the pressures, what the compressor's doing, is the clutch running, what's going on with that condition and how can we fix it. And you got to have a 609 certification to be able to work on these things according to OSHA if you're working on AC. I have to know about air-operated components and brake components on the trucking side and hydraulic components on the trucking side. I work on yard trucks too, so there's hydraulic lifts and booms and things like that. And even have to learn about or know how to weld or fabricate. So that's another thing you got to consider. And one more thing you have to consider is that some of these jobs, again, from the diesel mechanic perspective, they require or want you to get a CDL. There's another job, another trade that's piled into one job. So keep in mind, not all mechanics are going to be doing all of this stuff. Some might be more basic tire shops. Some might be more intricate dealerships where you're doing all of this stuff. And some fleets do a lot of heavy stuff too. But just take a second and think about how all of those trades you have to understand at least, or be willing to know. And in my state, you're only going to make $1 an hour more than the average pay. To me, that's not right. I mean, the average job does not require you to know all the things you need to know to be a mechanic or a diesel mechanic. For $1 an hour more above the general wage, it's just not enough. It's not enough to get people into this industry. That's why you're looking at the shortage. It's not enough to make it by yourself, let alone with the inflation and cost of things these days. This is not an average job, so it shouldn't have average pay. Plain and simple. A quick example that I can give you in my area, it's a big warehousing area. There are warehousing jobs that pay in the 20s and high 20s. They're out there in this area. I worked at one that paid under $30 an hour, just under 30. I worked there for 7, 8 years until I changed careers. So they're just not the same. You know, what's required for me to work as a diesel mechanic is nowhere near what is required for me to work in a warehouse. But they pay similar rates in most cases. Maybe not most cases, but in some cases they can pay the same. So why would anyone come here when they can maybe get lucky and get into a warehouse job that pays a similar rate? Also, keep in mind that we're expected to buy all of our tools and the box to put all our tools in safely. We're talking about thousands of dollars in tools. Even if you buy affordable, like I do, very affordable, and stay off the tool truck, like I do, you're still going to spend close to $4,000 or $5,000 to get yourself in a good situation where you can do B-Tech and even some C-Tech level work. You know, the heavier stuff when it comes to fleets and whatnot. So that's coming all out of your wallet. You have to pay for that. That's an upfront cost on your responsibility. Another thing, you think about the importance of the job. I mean, you think about what happens if an 80,000 pound truck, again, in my situation as a diesel mechanic, if someone's working on the brakes, a diesel tech's working on the brakes of an 80,000 pound truck, and it decides it's not going to stop in traffic and plows into a bunch of cars and does the worst case scenario, you're getting called into court. That's on you. I worked at a company that said they were not going to look after us if something like that happened. I obviously don't work there anymore because that was a bad place to work, but they stated, we're not going to back you up, so make sure you do your job right. And they're right, you got to make sure it's done safely because this is very important. But that liability is there. And is it worth $25, $26 an hour to start? Yet another thing to think about is the toll this takes on your body. Just go talk to a veteran mechanic, someone who's been working on cars, or like in my industry, heavy trucks for a long time. A lot of them are missing fingertips, and if they're not missing any limbs, they have surgeries they can tell you about because it beats your body up. Even if you're super safe about it, it's eventually going to take its toll on you. Most jobs I've been at 3 different fleet places now. They're going to watch your numbers. You know, you're not just going to stand around and work slowly and be careful the whole time. They're going to say, hey, why is that not done already? Or, hey, why have you taken an extra 40 minutes on that job? You better justify it in your comments report. You better write up why it took you 40 minutes extra, and it better be worth the write-up because you're going to hear about it otherwise. One of the companies I worked at looked at your numbers pretty strictly. Like if you were over your SRT time, your name was on a TV in red letters, so everyone knew and the bosses knew that you were over your SRT time, even by a minute or two. So some of that stress is also put into this mix. $25, $26 an hour worth it? Do you want to come work here for that wage when you could go make $1 or $2 an hour less and drive a forklift all day? Maybe that's why you have a mechanic shortage. So all this being said, my point is, all of the things I mentioned, all the things you have to worry about and pay for, and your body and all the stuff you need to know in my area to make $1 an hour more than the average pay, it's kind of no wonder nobody's coming into the industry from my diesel mechanic experience and perspective. And I'm relatively new to this. I'm very new to this industry. And I make decent money. I'm getting paid fairly, otherwise I wouldn't be where I am. But, you know, it's going to take time to get to a wage where you can afford things, especially in this economy, and not have to worry about bills. Or you have a partner that makes better or the same money as you do, which is my situation. Bills are fine at the moment. We're lucky. But here's the answer. You want to fix the shortage, you want to fix the mechanic shortage, you got to pay more. Plain and simple. The pay needs to come up for a starting wage. And if that person works with the company or has 2, 3, 4 years experience, the starting wage of $25 an hour, it should be close to double. Like you should be making $35 or more an hour to be doing this job, in my opinion. With the liability and all the things I mentioned above, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer that people aren't coming into the industry. The pay is not worth what we're getting. Juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? That's what's happening. But I think if the economy keeps going where it's going, and I think it will, jobs are going to get harder to find, and people are going to work for less money because they just need to work. So I think that the scale is going to switch back to the employers pretty soon if it hasn't already. This past couple of years, it was super easy to find a job. You could trip and fall and land in a job basically. Now that's starting to go away because the economy's starting to hit even harder, but we'll see what happens in the next couple of months, I guess, right? And this doesn't apply to just diesel mechanics or mechanics. This is like all trades. There's a lot of trades that require a lot of information and knowledge, and some are getting paid very well, good for them, and some are just the juice ain't worth the squeeze, man, and that's why you have a shortage. But I like what I do. I like fixing things. It's fun. It's kind of rewarding. You just got to take your time with it, not get too burnt out about it. And if it's worth the money, then you should keep doing it. You know, I always liked big trucks when I was growing up. I liked the big heavy stuff. It was fun for me when I was a kid. I collected all the cool toys and stuff that were trucks, and that's why I think I still do it to this day. I still like the trucks. It's fun to work on them. It's fun to fix things. So that's why I stay where I am, but I guess we'll see if that's going to remain where I am the next couple of years. We'll see. Anyway, that's just my opinion on why there's a tech shortage. I'm sure there's some stuff I missed. If you want to let me know what I missed, go ahead and comment it. But I think more people need to realize that the mechanic shortage is because of the work required and the money that's not there. You know, we're not in warehousing. We don't have to just drive a forklift all day. We're not baristas. You know, we're not just making coffee all day or something like that. So the wage shouldn't even be closely comparable. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. See you later.